So you never wanted to be a biochemist in the first place?
No. You know, we used to have this joke in campus where we used to say BA Baba Menituma. For me, it was that. The opportunity that came up for me was to do biochemistry. There were no, private universities, and there were not too many chances and opportunities, and so you took what came your way. And so that's what came my way. And I thank God for that, because it has made me who I am, in a sense. I don't regret that. I met him on the line. Yes, I did.
Glad you did it.
I did, yeah.
Your passion was psychology.
That was always my passion. I really wanted to do psychology. And so for me, when I entered into ministry, I said, you know what, I just want to, it was just 1 year of internship. And I said, in this 1 year, I want to see if indeed, I want to confirm if counseling is the thing that I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I applied, to join ministry.
But for me, my plan was actually to be rich, young and rich. When I talk about 30 millionaire, that was my plan, And growing up, I had no other ambition. I just want to be rich. I didn't even care what career. And I was gifted, I was academically gifted, I was gifted in sports. So I knew I could be rich in many different ways. But one day, I remember how I fixed my career. I asked my dad, he was driving me to school. I went to Nairobi school, so he was driving me to school. And I asked him, Dad, what's a career where people can get very rich? And I think absentmindedly, he just said, my richest friend is a pharmacist. He just said it in passing. And immediately I said, okay, done. That's my career. I'll be a pharmacist. And that's what I applied myself. I went to school. That's how I ended up doing biochemistry. And the problem is our schools don't do career guidance. So it's sad, because I feel somebody could have directed me, what are your passions? What are you interested in? What do you shine in? But because nobody gave me that direction, for me, I just thought, okay, I want to have money, lots of money. So what do I do? So pharmacist. So when I came to university, I said, let me do biochemistry, because I wanted to understand the elements of it. And then I'll do a master's in pharmacy. And then I'll get into my pharmaceutical industry and make a lot of money. So at that point is when I met her. And then I met, like I said, Pastor Oscar at Nairobi Chapel. And I think for the first time, he really got me to think through who I was and where I was going and what life was about. He asked me to do the same program after I finished my university. I said, no, heck no. I've got big plans. So I told him I'm not doing that. Then he asked her, and she said yes, without telling me. We're not married, we're dating, and we're planning to get married. And then she said that she's going to do it. So when she came and told me, I was so mad at her, because our plan had been we both go and do our masters abroad, and then we get married. So I was mad, because now she's already committed herself for a year to do something, and now she has not involved me in the decision. So I just got annoyed. I went back and told the pastor, sir, I've prayed about it, I've decided to do your program. It had nothing to do with him, it had everything to do with her. So we did the internship together for a year. So that's how I accidentally ended up being a pastor.
Yes, I said that I wanted to marry a pastor.
It was because you hadn't been a Christian.
Yeah, for long. And so I think one of my expectations, how we were talking about the expectations earlier on, I think I was thinking, yeah, I'll marry a pastor. And pastors, I think, were my heroes at that time. Just these men, will be praying, he's just a nice man. So I think that was
not like
no issues, so.
I was good with people. I was good at speaking. I'd never known that. Because you see, the school system, again, it focuses on academics and maybe a few other things, but doesn't really get you to explore your whole range of talents. And that's what church did for me. And I think by the end of the year, it was very clear to me that I needed to do this.
And I think you also introduced the whole thing of purpose and the fact that you're created for a bigger purpose than just your wallet. Yeah, I mean, you're created to impact, you're created for influence. And I think that's part of the reasons why, kind of changed
I began to realize that my purpose was not just to make money.
Yeah.
It was actually to change lives. And that's what God created me for. I was actually made with a reason. And I began to realize I could be a pharmacist and make a lot of money, or I could be what God was calling me to be and live out what I was created to do. And I think that's part of the cornerstone of what we teach at Mavuno, is that all of us were made for purpose. And it's much more important that you discover your purpose and live out that purpose and your passion that God gave you than that you become a wage slave forever chasing money. And I think that was such an eye-opening thing. I mean, you're just there running after opportunity. How many Kenyans are in that space where it's like, man, I got a new job. You're not even asking, is this job going to be where God wants me? Is this job going to help me become closer to my wife? Is it going to help me get closer to my children? The important things in life? Or is it just, I have a new job in Rwanda and they need me to travel, and it pays me double of what I was earning. So we're wage slaves, we're just running after the next bit of cheese, not realizing we're not created to be rats. Even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. That's what I tell people. I mean, one of the things that we say in our Ndoa class is we say, you have no business marrying somebody if you don't trust them. So when you marry somebody, you're actually committing your life to them. And so one of the things we did, and maybe we did it naively, but I think it was the best thing we ever could do. Right from the beginning, we had a joint account. And we put both our salaries in it, and we paid each other an allowance. So, and basically you justified your allowance. So hers was higher than mine because her needs, her hair and her whatevers and her, she has more doids than I do. So, we would actually draw out an allowance, which then we would put in our personal accounts and manage that separately. But for the center, we always put our stuff together. And I've always put every property we've bought has been in both our names. And we have joint control of our accounts. And I always say to people, this is what I say to young people who are planning to get married, marry somebody you can do that with. Because if you can't trust this person with your wealth, then you really have no business being married to them. So that's one of the things that we've found has been very, very useful for us to do, because my wife can actually use she can go to her account and spend. So I think it's important to manage money together, to make money decisions together. We make all our money decisions together. So if I'm going to make a certain decision to buy a property or to do an investment, I always consult with her, and we do it together. When it comes to giving our parents, like I said, we both talk about it. That can be a very threatening thing for couples, because we're very attached still. Even after 20 years, you still find you're attached to your family of origin. And if her mom has a real need, the instinct is for her to just, let me just sort her out. I'll figure out things later with my husband. But what we've done is, apart from, you've got your allowance, so you have full discretion on that. But when it comes to our joint accounts, then she'll come and tell me, my parents asked for this. Or I want to help a sibling in this way, we need to agree. And at that point, then she will let me process it. And we've tended to be pretty generous to our in-laws both ways, but we make it a joint decision. So I found that the thing about wealth is it can destroy marriage. Today's couple, they're hardly home.
Yeah. Money.
You both left the house at 5. You're out there hustling. You both come home at 9. You don't see each other. I remember this couple we met at a dinner some time back, and they're both such busy executives, such both important people. They meet at the airport. And they told us this. They said, sometimes we meet at the airport and exchange memos, because I'm the one who's been home and I'm telling you, child A is sick. He needs to take this cough drops. Child B has an appointment with whatever. And it's like, you haven't talked, but it's like, okay, my flight, I'm running. Here's the memo. Here's what the house looks like. See you next week. And it's like it's so hard to manage together like that. And the reason is because when we asked them, that's miserable. They said, yeah, we hate it. And we asked, why can't you stop? Why can't you just stop? And you know what they said? They said, we can't. The mortgage is too big. So they lived in Karen, have a big house, and that mortgage depends on both of them hustling as hard. Nowadays, it's expectation. Everybody just hustles, and there's no thought of, how long are we doing this? And you know what will happen? Eventually, they will get out of some of their problems. I know. But by that time, where will the kids be? Because you come up...
where will they be? We say simplify.
Simplify.
Live a simple lifestyle.
Sell that house.
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah. We've always lived on one salary ever since we got married. It was maybe we were young, maybe we didn't know better, but even then we just started living on one salary and saving another salary. And what that has done, it's meant we've always lived below our means. We've always lived in a neighborhood that we could live in a much higher neighborhood if we chose. but we've always lived in a cheaper place than we needed to. And it's not being cheapskates. What it does, it gives you freedom, you know? It gives you so much freedom because I'm not trying, if we lost our jobs today, we'll be able to continue for a while as we're looking for another job without the panic of, oh my God, you know, we have a mortgage that we have to service. And so one of the things that we tell couples is, you know, most of us live way beyond our means. I remember the first time we wanted to buy a house. So first house we wanted to buy, we were so convinced we should buy a house in Kilimani. And you know, the reason we wanted to buy it in Kilimani is because both of us had parents who worked, had their own homes. So I think the expectation you both have is to sort of, your first house will, it may not be what your parents had, but it'll approximate, you know, because that's what the lifestyle you're used to. So you're trying to sort of go to where your peers are, go to where your parents would be. And I remember we had a very good friend, and it's good to have friends who are honest with you. And a friend,
we were looking in Kile.
We were in Kile, money, you know.
In Kile to buy.
We're thinking, okay, now we can buy land in Kile and build the house.
Yeah.
And one of our friends told us, you're jokers, you can't afford to live there.
Okay.
And we said, what the heck are you saying? I mean, what do you mean we can't afford to live there? He said, yeah, you'll be paying that mortgage for the rest of your lives. And we said, so what should we do? And he said, he took us round with a couple of other friends and took us to Embakasi. That time we were living in Gumo in a rented house. And so, you know, when you're living in Gumo, going to Embakasi feels like you're backsliding. You know, you feel like you're moving back. You should be moving forward into the Kilimanis and the guy just told us, this house you're living in, even in Gumo, all your neighbors, because we were living in an estate that had a lot of doctors. He said, all your neighbors are wealthier than you. You're living above your means. So he said, go back to a place where you can afford to pay that mortgage off in a short time. You know, we did. Fortunately, we listened to his advice, and several of us bought houses together. And the most amazing thing, we were able to just your costs go down because of where you're living. We're able to pay off our mortgage in 3 years' time. I mean, even the bank was shocked when we finished our mortgage in 3 years. And the reason is because we had saved. We had been saving for a while before, so we could pay a good down payment. But secondly, we're living below our means, so any extra money you get like a 50K extra, you throw it in there. And the beauty of that is we had financial freedom. And what we then did is, with our house, we rented it out. With the money we were able to rent it out, we were able to get a house in Kilimani that we rented. And the money that we were getting from the rent here was actually enough for us because we got a really good deal of a house that had an SQ that wasn't really counted in the rent. And so the money we were getting from our rental house was enough to pay for the rent, and with what we rented the SQ for, we were living pretty much for free. And our friends were looking at us like, wow, you guys are living it up. But you're like, no, you don't understand how we're here. We're not paying this from our salary. This is actually paid from our investment. And that's the kind of teaching that we give people at Ndoa. Because we say, you know, you don't live like the Joneses, don't live like the Kamaus, don't live like the Ochienos. Because that's living somebody else's life for them. You may have to take a few steps back and live below your means. And when you do that, when you live like no one else today, then tomorrow you'll be able to live like no one else can. And I keep telling people, wealth is created over time. That's the other thing that our generation don't understand. They think that wealth, you know, that dream of when I'm 30, I'll be retired, I'll be playing golf.
I'll land in a jackpot.
I'll hit the jackpot, I want to be young and rich, you know.
Yeah.
But how many people actually do that? There's a few, but then we look at them and we say we all want to be Bill Gates.
But even he worked.
He did.
Yeah.
But you know, he's one of those few who dropped out of MIT and became a billionaire immediately. Yeah, the rest of us, it takes time. But if you take your time, a time will come when you will actually be living pretty comfortably. We're in our 40s now, in our mid-40s. And I find we're able to live extremely comfortably, not because we've stolen anybody's money, not because just because we've been faithful with what we've received.